Our sales dropped, we're not sure why and not sure what to do. If that's the question in your head when it comes to Amazon, then this video is for you. Welcome, my name is Irina Balurko. I'm a partner here at Red Rocks E-commerce, where we help brands launch and grow profitably on Amazon. And today's video is about a question that I hear often in my conversations with brands. Usually it's in the context of a brand that's been on Amazon for some time, sales were growing, and then something happened. As in they hit, the sales dropped in a, fairly short period of time. They feel like something changed, but they're not really sure what impacted that, and of course how to fix it, right? So for us to talk about how do we get sales back on track, first we need to diagnose what's the root cause, right? I have my kind of a root cause analysis based again on tens of thousands of now empirical experience. Before I go through that, I want to kind of a caveat that if your sales dropped and there were no inventory interruptions, right? Because that's an assumption. So we assume because if there was no inventory, sales dropped, right? So we kind of assume that's not the problem. And then also you didn't make any changes to advertising. You didn't pause advertising, you didn't drop your budget. So we're making that assumption. So in other words, you cannot place a cause-effect analysis there on sales drop due to anything in your control or anything that you did, right? So now that we have these disclosures out of the way, we're disclosing the obvious, we're limiting the obvious. Let's go through the cause effect of sales drop. All sales on Amazon are tied to two fundamental principles. One is ranking in search results, and the second one is conversions. In blunt language, it's all about how many eyeballs get to your product page, right? How many eyeballs you get on your product page. And the second one is how many people click buy, right? So it's all about traffic, finding, and then buying. So everything on an analysis of sales drops kind of revolves around that. So I'm going through some of the most common reasons. So the first, what impacts rankings, right? So you have lost your position in organic rankings. And that means that when you were coming up for your certain keywords, for some reason you lost that position. Assuming that you didn't make any changes to advertising, right? Again, because advertising does impact organic rankings that go back and forth. So if you lost your position, it often means there is an aggressive competitor that came on board, or somebody who is started going against you for keywords or even for your brand name. So look at that, kind of who's playing in your space that maybe either came up from nowhere or got really aggressive, right? The second one is, did your product pages get messed up? We see that sometimes where for some reason maybe like keywords fell off, or product or copy, bullet points fell off, or titles reverted back to the old one. It's just a catalog backend issues that do happen fairly consistently, unfortunately. So scan through your product pages, make sure that you haven't lost your data. That means both product keywords and copy and images, because if that's not on your pages, obviously it's going to impact your ranking, right? So that is kind of the overall ranking root cause. Then the second one is, see if your average review rating dropped. That kind of impacts both rankings, but here I'm talking in the context of conversions. Actually, both for ranking and conversion, unfortunately, impacts both because again, it's all interrelated. So by average review rating, I mean before maybe you for some reason you had a slew of negative reviews and your rating dropped from average 4 to 3.5. So that will because reviews do matter for Amazon algorithm, and also we know that customers look at reviews when they make purchase decisions on Amazon. If that's the case, most likely you need to focus on what is the issues in those reviews, what caused that. Look at that, whether it's a problem, product problem, fulfillment problem, whatnot, okay? Next one is, has your account standing been compromised? By that, I mean, have you had A to Z claims? Have you had late delivery shipments? If you do merchant, we see that more with brands that fulfill themselves. Have you had any type of dings on account health? So if you go under account health or account feedback, seller feedback, those are the metrics that will reflect that. If you had that, it most likely impacted your searchability in Amazon, because Amazon looks, we're not sure if this buyer is delivered on their promise, right? So it's kind of like the same with the credit rating, right? So if you have any dings, if you had a late payment, it impacts your credit score. So that's a very similar concept. Often it also leads to the last one that I'll go to the fourth one, that leads to a lost buy box. It's really more of a diagnostic tool than a root cause, but I mention it here because it kind of sometimes can summarize all the other things that I mentioned. So if your sales drop, first of all, look at your buy box percentage, because if you don't have buy box, you cannot advertise, more or less. Amazon doesn't say directly, but that's just the reality is. So, and buy box loss can, assuming that you are the only brand on your product pages, you don't share buy box, there are no other sellers. The buy box loss can be, let's say we've seen that with increase in prices. Also, if you have, what I mentioned, account standing issues, any type of operational issues, and also with new sellers, but with new sellers that wouldn't be relevant for you because you're starting out, you don't have sales to begin with. So those are the last one, the very last, it's really the macro events, the seasonal events where there's usually some type of a lull before, before a pickup, right? So we usually know, most brands know when is the hot seasons, right? But sometimes we discount the impact of kind of a general lull in consumer activity. The one example could be kind of the dead week around Labor Day. When everybody comes back, they start doing, picking up their fall and school and whatnot shopping, right? So kind of consider that as well. If it's just been a short period of time, like a week or two, don't jump to impulsive decisions, try to fix it. Kind of consider the overall consumer behavior, right? And you should see probably that in other channels as well, if that last reason is the reason for sales drop. So let me go through that one more time. The most common reasons for drop, unexpected sales drop. You have lost your position in organic ranking due to something messed up on product pages, perhaps aggressive competitor coming up, bidding on your keywords or maybe on your brand name. Your review rating dropped, which caused a decrease in conversion, which impacts your ranking. Your account standing has been compromised due to operational issues, A to Z claims, late shipments, perhaps not answering customers' questions. And the last one is the seasonal slow periods that I think sometimes we underestimate. We don't estimate them as well as we estimate hot seasons. So those are the main reasons. Now, this is, all of this in the context of sales drop, fairly short term, right? I'm not talking about more larger picture drops where year over year, for example, you've been on Amazon for 5 years, you were kind of cruising along, and then you started plateau, and then the sales started to drop, and you haven't really changed anything. That's a different diagnostic situation that I'll cover in another video. This is what I've just talked through is really for a sales drop that are fairly short, fairly recent. I shouldn't say hopefully fairly short, but fairly recent, where it's not year over year, because that is more a symptom of there's a lot more macro things going on if you have kind of a year over year drops. So hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. You can also find us at redrocksecommerce.com, and we'll talk soon.